Welcome to the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout from Atlanta Dragway in Commerce, Georgia. I'm Al Tucci, and I'll tell you, we've got an exciting program in a year to come as we bring the Pro Modifieds to the tracks nearest you. Now let's go down and have a word with Aaron Green.
Today on Prime Network, we'll see 200-mile-an-hour plus Pro Modified racing action on the Sunoco Racing Fuel Shootout Tour. My name is Aaron Green here at Atlanta Dragway, the site of today's event. And going along with the Pro Modified racing, we'll also have nitro-burning funny cars featuring the world's top stars. John Force with the Castrol GTX Chevrolet and Casey Spurlock with the Fruit of the Loom Dodge funny car.
Well, it was awesome here at Atlanta Dragway as we got ready for qualifying. I'll tell you, some of the hottest names in Pro Modified were here this weekend, getting ready to battle each other on the track at Atlanta, Georgia. Even John Force showed up, the fireman himself, in the Castrol GTX funny car, one of the hottest funny car drivers in the NHRA category. Aaron Green had a chance to talk with him.
One of the most popular drivers in motorsports today is John Force, driver of the Castrol GTX Chevrolet. And John, you ran great yesterday here at Atlanta Dragway, getting down in the 520s on the new track surface.
Well, yeah, they definitely did some work here, and the old hot rods, they ran really good. We really had her a little soft. We managed the 23, and Spurlock nipped us right there in the lights, but the track was excellent. The crowd was unbelievable here last night. When Pete Williams called me up to come run his race down here with Sunoco and this new group, I was excited to come, but I think the big excitement was the 40 Pro Mods, or whatever they call them. They're funny cars of the 60s is what they are, and there's a whole new breed of people down here. I think you're going to see a lot of them in the future, but they really love the sport. It's a big family outing for them, but it was a whole lot of race cars that for John Force, it was great to see.
Well, some of the basic rules for Pro Modified class racing here at the Sunoco Shootout is 500 plus cubic inches, 2,600 pound weight class, and a stock appearing body. All functions of the car controlled by the driver, no funny car one-piece bodies. And I'll tell you, these guys know how to make the rules work in the Pro Modified class. Well, even Norm Wisner showed up in the Mega Ford Pro Modified entry. Even the 55 Chevrolet of Charlie Carpenter was on hand this afternoon at Atlanta Dragway. I'll tell you, this is going to be a tough one. Over 26 entries and only a 16-car field. Race fans, time to hang on to the dead wood in the stands. We're going Pro Modified racing. Today's race is brought to you by Sunoco Race Fuels, when split seconds count. Also by Pro Motorsports, the new name and officially licensed Pro Drag apparel. We'll be right back with more of the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout in just a moment.
You want speed? I've got your speed right here. Speed Unlimited knows fast. If it has 4 wheels and a motor, we've got you covered. With thousands of parts in stock, we're sure to have what you want. Just look at this wrap. Need help deciding? These guys know their stuff. Do you drool over the newest parts and magazines? Well, we've got them. Come get them and install them today. Speed Unlimited, the high-performance superstore. Come get some. You know you want it.
Welcome back to Atlanta Dragway in Commerce, Georgia for first round of our Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout. Our first round of eliminations shows Daniel Vaughn taking on Norm Estes in his flying ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette. The Carter team takes on Louis Burris. Charlie Carpenter in the 55 Chevrolet taking on Tom Mooney's 40 Willys. Pilcher versus Bill Clanton. Ed Hoover in the Sunoco Race Fuel Chevrolet Camaro takes on Steve Kirk Jr. Gary Grainer versus Martin. Bill Neri and Halsey. And low qualifier Chris Hunt pairs up with Norm Wisner in the Mega Ford in our first round of eliminations from the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout. Well, coming up in the first round out of the water box area now, Daniel Vaughn from Belvedere, South Carolina, and his beautiful flame-looking Chevrolet Lumina will take on Norm Estes, a heavy hitter in any pro modified racing category. It's the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette out of Alabama, number 9 qualifier here today with a 684, just 0.03 of a second slower than Vaughn's beautiful Lumina. As they get into the beams, check it out. It looks like Estes clearing the nitrous oxide, both cars in, and a red light start goes to Vaughn. He burns it just like his Lumina burns down the track. Down on the top end. Estes with a phenomenal win takes it on and puts it over with 683 at over 200 miles per hour. And a couple of close friends on the starting line now. After the burnout, the custom auto sound 55 Chevrolet of Charlie Carpenter. He'll take on the chassis builder Tom Mooney in a brand new entry for Tom Mooney, the 1940 Willys. As they back into the hot rubber they laid on the starting pad, I'll tell you the neat thing about this run is Mooney built Charlie's car. Two close friends, both from North and South Carolina, now rolling into the beams. Mooney in the 40 Willys. Carpenter revving the motor one last time, finds himself into the bottom bulb. Lights are down and a perfect launch for Mooney's Willys, but it looks like flames at about the 1,000-foot mark, and Carpenter goes on to victory. Charlie Carpenter down in the pit area with Aaron Green.
Well, you beat your buddy, Charles, 687.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. I love to see you down here. It was a good pass for the custom auto sound car. The track seems to be in good condition. We had a little rich pop last night. I think we got rid of it. We are looking forward to the next round.
Is the wind making for some tricky driving on down the track?
Didn't bother us any at all that time. I really intended just to use one chute, but used both of them, and it seemed to work fine.
Well, next to the burnout box area will be Mark Carter from Arcarchi, Oklahoma, taking on the number 11 qualifier, Lewis Burrs in the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about Carter's brand new 94 Chevrolet Camaro, designed in a wind tunnel, and you talk about putting it to work. 706 cubic inches of big block Chevrolet, getting ready to take on Burris's flying ZR1. Well, Carter backs into the hot rubber. The crews go inside to make sure everything is A-OK. It looks like the pressures are ready. The nitrous oxide now being purged one last time over the windshield, and both Pro Modifieds will blast down the track here in Atlanta, Georgia. As they roll into the beams, Lewis Burrs and Mark Carter, the first round of Pro Modified action. Coming up right now, Carter gets into the top bulb. Burris follows behind, the nitrous being purged one last time to make sure there's a full shot of nitrous oxide to the engine. The lights are down, and Carter with a tremendous whole shot advantage. Going down and making the charge. Burris tries to hang on, but Carter takes the victory with a 682 at 201 miles per hour.
Mark, your Chevy runs as good as it looks, 682.
Well, it's still not up to its potential, but, you know, we learn more every time we go down the racetrack.
A lot of hitters here today. Going to be a tough race to win.
Absolutely, but that's what we came here to do.
Well, as the excitement just gets hot, so does the burnout box area. The big money Chevrolet Beretta coming up now, doing its burnout and laying one out heavy. I'll tell you, it's going to be Bill Clanton coming out of Rome, Georgia. Clanton qualified number 12 for today's race with a 689 at 199 miles per hour in his 698 cubic inch Pontiac powered big block. Clanton will pair up against Johnny Pilcher, who qualified number 5th. Pilcher, very heavy duty, one of the ex-Dixie Pro Stock Association racers, now the number 5 Pro Mod here at Atlanta, ready to go. Clanton backs into the hot rubber in the big money Chevrolet. Now it looks like Pilcher revving the motor. This ought to be a hot one. Number 5 against the number 12 qualifier. Clanton into the beams, Pilcher top bulb, ready to go as the motors come to life. 2,000 horsepower. Pilcher rolls into the bottom bulb. Both cars are in. A green light start, and Pilcher has problems, major problems. The number 12 qualifier upsets the number 5 qualifier, and Clanton goes to the next round here in Atlanta.
$695, Bill, puts you in round 2.
That's great. I'm glad to be here.
What do you think of the racetrack?
The racetrack's great. We've been having good luck all weekend. If we can just stay a little longer, we'll win this race.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, the next set of cars to the line, it'll be the Sunoco Race Fuel Chevrolet Camaro of Ed Hoover. He'll take on Steve Kirk Jr., the former stock car racer, now finding himself going 1,320 feet in some 6 seconds. Right now, as they roll into the beams, Hoover bringing the RPMs up. Kirk Jr. really ready to roar in his beautiful Chevrolet. Now the lights are down, and look at this. Chris, it looks like Kirk, the only man off the line, as Kirk goes down, leaving Hoover on the starting pad. Hoover with some problems. Kirk, an off-run, 7:07 at 188, takes the victory. And I'll tell you, dejected Ed Hoover has to be upset. Let's go to the top end and talk to Steve Kirk.
Ed Hoover had problems right on the starting line, Steve. Does that surprise you?
Yes, surprises me real bad.
Your 7:07 came out on top.
Thanks. That's what we needed to get to progress on. This is our first trip. This is our first race. My first race. About the 6th time I've been in the car. And we're just working hard.
Well, congratulations. You just beat one of the top guns.
Appreciate it.
Well, coming up now out of the burnout box area, the 57 Chevrolet of Michael Martin out of South Carolina. The big 698 cubic inch Chevrolet engine on board, ready to take on the Persico brothers entry from New York. And Gary Granner doing the driving of the 67 Chevrolet Camaro that ran a stout 677 at 205 to qualify in the 3rd spot here today. Well, the number 3 spot qualifier had lane choice. He picked the furthest lane from us, and he'll take on the number 14th qualifier, Mike Martin in his 57. As they roll into the beams, Persico brothers car revving the motor last time, last man in, the lights come down, and Michael Martin couldn't hang on, had to go soon, trying to get the edge on the Persico team, going red, giving the win to the number 3 qualifier. Let's go to the top end and have a word with Gary Grainer.
Great run, Gary. Low ET of the round so far, 681.
Excellent, excellent. Hope we can keep it up.
You only ran 199. Did you shut off early?
Short shifted high gear. Just kind of starting a little bit, so I knew I had him covered, so. We burned some pistons last night too, so don't want to hurt anything. We don't have anything left.
Well, now another great race ready to take place here in Atlanta. It looks like Bill Neri from Barrington, Illinois, lining up in the big 66 Chevrolet. You talk about some cubic inch. This guy qualified number 2 here this afternoon. He'll take on usually a favorite at all Pro Mod events, Jim Halsey in the GTX Casserole Chevrolet Corvette, who only qualified number 15th. I'll tell you, if he has anything to do with that, he'll show it right here as the numbers come down. The lights go down, and a start for Neri, but it looks like Neri running off the numbers. Halsey pulls to the top end charge and whips him down on the big end. Neri gets beat with a 691 and puts Neri on the trailer.
Well, Gary Grainer had low ET of the round with a 681, but then, Jim, you ran 680 at
That's
202.
Great. We've been plagued with problems all weekend in qualifying. We qualified 15th, and we went back with some stuff that we knew could run, and we put the number down.
How quick and fast do you think you can go on this new track surface?
I tell you, it's pretty good. If I can get the thing, it's pretty fat right now. If we can get it to run all the way down the racetrack, I think we'll go into 60s.
See you in round 2.
Thank you.
Well, next to the starting line, Norm Wisner out of Georgia in the Mega Ford, 698 plus cubic inches of Ford power plant, ready to take on a Chevy. The Chevy Ford battle you won't forget here in Atlanta. Chris Hunt, the number 1 qualifier. Wisner, the number 16 qualifier. The man who was on the bump all afternoon made it to this round of action. How far will he get? Well, that's soon to find out as Hunt backs up in Tommy Hunt's Chevrolet Lumina and gets ready to battle the nitrous oxide being purged. Wisner playing the light game, seeing if he can take a little bit of advantage of Chris Hunt while the youngster revs it up, pulls it into the beams. Now Wisner gets in. The Mega Ford's ready to rock. The lights come down, and it looks like a whole shot advantage going to Chris Hunt. Down on the top end, what a charge as Hunt blows him away. 682 at 200 miles per hour.
682 at 200, Chris, and you defeat the only Ford in the field.
We're tickled to death with that. It was a little off pace from yesterday. We had a little trouble down track, but maybe we can get it squared away for the next round.
Taking the smooth approach to this, huh?
We try our best. It's best to keep you cool, I guess.
Well, let's check out some of the weekend highlights here at the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout here at Atlanta Dragway. Well, coming to the line, we had top fuel action. No other than Doug Herbert from North Carolina brought up his top fuel car, trying to make some tune runs, getting ready for the season. Herbert, really a strong runner in the 93 season, finished in the 9th spot in the NHRA Winston World Point standings, as now he'll back up of the owner, I believe, of the mail order high performance warehouse, Herbert, as he backs up the top fuel machine, 5,000 horsepower, ready to be unleashed here at Atlanta Dragway. Let's see if he can put some low numbers on the boards for us here. What the highlights they were. Top fuel, funny car, we had it all this weekend. Herbert ready to go as he gets into the beams. Listen to the RPMs come up on that top fuel machine as Herbert's in. The lights are down and Herbert goes to fire. Check it out, the car running to power, down on the top end. An awesome 511 at 272.56 miles per hour. Even Saturday night, they were burning them up with funny car action, nitro funny car action, as the #1 NHRA funny car champion came to Atlanta. John Force in the Castrol GTX Chevrolet, taking on no other than the Fruit of a Loom entry and Casey Spurlock. Two cars that met up last year at Gainesville, Florida, and had to drive side by side. Now they can have a rematch here this Saturday night at Atlanta Dragway. As they back them up, the burnouts have been completed. Now it's time to take the 5,000 horsepower and put it to work here down the brand new reconstructed drag strip in Atlanta, Georgia. The RPM's coming up, ready to roll into the beams. John Force, better known as the fireman sometimes. Spurlock's in, the lights are down, the fire comes out of the zoom pipes, and what a charge it is! Casey Spurlock trying to hammer him, and he does down on the top end. Next up, we even had wheel stand competition. Bob Riggle in the Hurst Hemi Underglass. The original 66 Barracuda coming to life here at Atlanta Dragway, and Bob Riggle always doing a fantastic job driving his car down the quarter mile. Riggle in a complete 1,320-foot wheel stand had the crowds on the stands going crazy. Well, after making the stands go crazy Saturday night, Bob Riggle and Aaron Green had a chance to chat down in the pit area.
The Hurst Hemi Underglass wheel stander entertains race fans from coast to coast, and Bob Riggle, driving this machine's got to be a thrill.
It is a real thrill. I always like to tell people that we've got the best ride in the park.
Well, you had a long tow from Arizona to be here this weekend.
Yes, we had about a 2,500-mile trip. We got out of the cold weather there in the mountains. We live in the mountains in Prescott, Arizona, and it's been nice coming here to a little warmer weather.
The fans seem to be really impressed with this 1966 Plymouth. You've done a lot of restoration work on this machine.
Yes, we have. The old car, the 1966 car, rotted away to the point to where it wasn't really worth saving. 6 years ago when we chopped it up, we didn't have any idea it was even going to do it. And now we've redone this car. We found another body. We put it back basically the way it was in 66 because I worked for Hurst and built the cars and drove them for him.
Well, we thank you for thrilling the race fans here this weekend.
Hey, we thank you and everybody in the audience.
Well, along with the pro modified drag racing action, every Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout features a $5,000 to win bracket race. Hundreds of Atlanta participants showed up at the Atlanta Dragway to go into this bracket race, and I'll tell you, the end was near because the finals were the 55 Chevrolet and the Chevy Camaro. Kenneth Humphreys in his beautiful 55 finds the wins with a 665 in the 8th mile charge at 103 miles per hour, collecting him and his crew over $5,000. The $5,000 champion took the 55, took the trophy, and took the crew to dinner that night. So congratulations to Kenneth Humphrey and the whole team here at Atlanta Dragway for making themselves champions. Well, Aaron Green had a chance to catch up with Ed Hoover. Let's see what Ed had to say.
Ed Hoover, your new car looked great this weekend in qualifying. You took the number 4 spot, and then something went wrong in the first round.
The first round we came out after running 677 qualifying pass, had transmission failure on the burnout, which we had to forfeit the run because when you do that, if you try to leave in high gear, you could burn the motor up. So we just gave the run away basically.
I'm sure that you'll come up with some great performances in the future with this car.
I feel real positive about the car and the engine combination, and this transmission problem is just something just unforeseen, and it's happened before, and it's something you never know when it's going to happen.
Well, the second round pairings are as shows. Hunt will take on Estes, Charlie Carpenter will take on Jim Halsey, Mark Carter and Gary Graner will shoot it out, and Clanton finds himself with a bye run because Steve Kirk Jr. had some mechanical difficulty. Well, it's time for second round action of Eliminations, and it will be no other than Norm Estes and the number 1 qualifier, Chris Hunt, ready to go in Tommy Hunt Chevrolet Lumina. Both cars really hard battlers at any Pro Mod event, and right now they're ready to battle the new asphalt surface here at Atlanta Dragway. Right now, backing up into the hot rubber, Norm Estes in the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette, the nitrous oxide 709 plus cubic inch Chevy power plant will take on Chris Hunt, the youngster who knows how to cut the tree down. As he rets it up, I'll tell you, the Hunt's restoration-sponsored Chevrolet, the TNC racing machine, getting the last words from his wife, Chris, buckled in. It's time to go to work now. As he was the number 1 qualifier, Estes not qualifying so good for today's event, but I'll tell you, anything can happen here in Pro Modified Racing. Both cars revving it up, clearing out the nitrous oxide, and now it's time to go to work. Estes and Hunt rolling into the beams. Who will it be? The crews pull Estes in ever so gently. The ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette rolls into the top bulb first. I'll tell you, it's going to be a staging battle here. No one wants to get into the top light first. Well, I'll tell you, about $40,000 a copy for each engine in each vehicle, and these guys are not going to stage. Well, they're into the pre-staging beams. Now, who will get into the bottom bulb? It looks like Chris Hunt is just giving Norm the advantage right here because both cars so close at the tree, the race could be won right there. Well, they're both cars revving the motors up. Estes started to almost throw him into the beams, telling him to move in. Chris Hunt can't handle the pressure, moves Tommy Hunt Chevrolet Lumina in, and they're both off the line. Green start and a whole shot advantage by a bit goes to Estes. Down to the top end, Estes with the victory. Goes to the trap, 683 at 200 miles per hour. Next up will be Mark Carter from Arcarchi, Oklahoma, with his slick wind tunnel design 94 Chevrolet Camaro built by Jerry Bickle Race Cars. Will be in the nearest lane to the screen. Carter's opponent here in round number 2 will be the number 3 qualifier at this event, Gary Graner from Orange Park, New York, driving for David and Mike Persico with the radically designed 1967 Chevrolet Camaro. You see the crew members giving hand signals to Gary Graner in the 67 Camaro. The reason for that is that they want the driver to line his car up exactly on top of the burnout marks that he laid down in the burnout. Well, that's a very important reason for that because that is right where all the traction is. And with 2,000 horsepower on the starting line, you don't want to have any mistakes by getting out of the groove. Well, the grip on the surface is there. The track's crew has checked it out, and they've told Persico to pull into the lights. Now it's time to rock and roll as they pull into the beams. Mark Carter, the flying fat man, taking on Gary Graner. Both Chevrolet Camaros, the late model and a newcomer, coming to the line. The nitrous oxide being purged by Mark Carter. Gary Graner ready to go out of New York. The last man into the beams. Watch as he flicks the bottom bulb on. The lights are down, and a red light start goes to Graner, giving the victory to Mark Carter, and his car flying to the top end. Carter with the easy victory at 682, 201 miles per hour. Well, the next 2 cars to the starting line. The AutoZone sponsored Chevrolet of Charlie Carpenter. He'll take on Jim Halsey's beautiful GTX Castrol Chevrolet Corvette sponsored entry. As they back to the hot rubber, I'll tell you, Halsey a hard hitter right now, but he's got to take on the nostalgia flyer himself, Charlie Carpenter, one of the men who set records all over with this 55 Chevrolet, probably the first man ever to build a shoebox pro modified car. I know that for a fact. Now as Charlie backs up into the hot rubber, you talk about having some big cubic inch, you talk about having a lot of nitrous oxide, talk about Carpenter's AutoZone 55 Chevrolet. Well, let's see if he can hang on here as he backs into the hot rubber. The whole crew getting him in. Halsey revving it up one last time, getting a breath of fresh air and turning the nitrous oxide on in the Chevrolet Corvette. Now the RPMs, and it's race time as they get ready to go. Who will go down to the semifinals? We'll find out in a matter of seconds, 6 to be exact. Right now, Carpenter purges the nitrous oxide, possibly would like to be the last man into the beams. Watch Charlie Carpenter, almost exactly like a pro stock champion driver, rolling in ever so gently. The big block-powered machine into the top bulb. Halsey's in along with him. Now it's time to go to work. Who will be the next man in? Halsey says, no way, you can go, as he rolls in and gives it up. Now it looks like Carpenter will roll in. Revving the motor one last time. Into the beams. Carpenter's out on a green light start, but Halsey trees him by a bit. Down on the top end charge. 1,320 feet later, the victory goes to no other than Charlie Carpenter, walking on that Chevrolet Corvette down on the top end. Well, Charlie Carpenter takes the win with a 686 at 204 miles per hour, putting that 55 Chevy into the semis. Well, next up, Bill Clanton in the big money entry Chevrolet Lumina. And you look, there's no opponent next to Bill Clanton. That is because earlier we told you Steve Kirk had nothing but problems down there after the first round of competition. Him and Ed Hoover both went awry after that run. So Kirk will not make the round. Clanton needs this one, though. He's got to put all he can to get lane choice in the next round of action. And I'll tell you, he'll have one heavy hitter, the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette of Norm Estes, to take on in the semifinals. Let's see if he can get through it and find himself a good lane choice. Clanton ran a 695 at 198 miles per hour in the first round to defeat Johnny Pilcher in his Pontiac. He will now stage up and look for a good performance here. Let's find out as the big money Chevrolet pulls into the lines. Bill Clanton ready to go, looking for that lane choice. Folks, this ought to be a dynamite one. Purging the nitrous oxide, revving the motor, 2,000 horsepower here at Atlanta Dragway, and now he's off the line. Clanton really ripping hard down to the top end. Clanton looks for lane choice and shuts the car off to a 698 at 198 miles per hour on that bye run, and the fans go berserk. Even the fans getting the free Frisbees here this weekend at the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout. So in our second round, well, it's over. Our semifinals will be Estes and Clanton, Carpenter versus Carter here at the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout. Well, next up, our top fuel funny car eliminators came to the line once again. Casey Spurlock, better known as Hollywood. and the #1 NHRA funny car driver in the country 3 times over, John the Fireman Force, ready to go in a Castrol GTX-sponsored Chevrolet. As they both complete their burnouts and get ready to rock and roll, I'll tell you, Saturday night was an awesome one. KC laid one out on Force, taking home a victory. Now let's see if he can do it again here. He'd love to pay him back for Gainesville, Florida, as they matched up down there in Gainesville, and John Force whipped Casey's rear. Now they'll back in, and this ought to be an awesome one. Hang on, race fans. Well, legendary tuner Austin Coyle backing John Force back into the hot rubber. He laid down across the starting pad. Casey Spurlock, Mr. Hollywood, the Fruit of a Loom car, ready to put some skid marks down on that track. And that's what he did. Look at him, some long skid marks. The hot rubber is laid down. Now Spurlock getting some last-minute attention from the crew. The car sounding awesome at this point. Well, it looks like Force's crew goes underneath to turn on the secondary coil as they bang the hood down, and John Force gets ready to bang the gears down the track here at Atlanta Dragway. Like we said earlier, a brand new asphalted surface, so these cars are looking possibly for some low record runs here. Coyle looks down at the ground. Now he tells John to bring it to the line. Casey Spurlock, they've got to be building heat by this time. Bringing him to the starting line. Casey Spurlock looking for a victory. Let's see if he can find one. He says, I owe John from Gainesville. They both get into the beams. Who will be the second man in? The lights getting ready to be hammered. The GTX Castrol Chevrolet versus the Fruit of the Loom Dodge off the line, and it looks like Force at the 8th mile mark. But look at Spurlock pull on the top end. Casey Spurlock a 5:27 to a 33 of Force, and a victory going to the Fruit of a Loom car.
#1, guys. We spanked the world champion.
Okay, see, your success continues here in 1994. A 5:27.275 eclipses Force.
Well, you know, it's only a match race, and of course, John and I have that great rivalry going, but anytime you can beat John Force in that Castrol Chevrolet, he is a 3-time world champion, and it looks good for us. I mean, this is good for my crew, for the Fruit of the Loom activewear crew. Like I said, John Force is tough. Anytime you can beat him, you've done your job.
Come on, Casey, you're pumped up. You wanted to beat Force, and you know it.
You bet. I tell you what, you know, you come to these match races, and of course, John's as tough a competitor as I am. We were both going for it, and like I said, anytime you can get John one down, that's great, and I owed him one from Gainesville.
Casey Spurlock doing the job today.
Now let's take a look from some action we saw Saturday night in our Pro Street Challenge. Well, in the Pro Street Challenge, it came up to be no other than Mr. Dyer, Rick Dyer himself, in the 55 Chevrolet, taking on the Cars Inc. sponsored Chevrolet Camaro of Bruce Kimmons. A couple of good buddies from the Michigan area, now ready to battle here in Atlanta. The RPM's coming up on Kimmons' car, waiting for the big body 55 to move in, and it does it! An explosion onto the hood of the Rick Dyer machine. The lights are off. Dyer knows he's done. Kimmons goes through with an easy victory in this round of Pro Street Racing.
Well, we've been out here running this deal for the Sunoco for the people and that, and we decided that we'd try to put the car. The car has ran 775 at 179, and we ran an 832 earlier. So we decided for the fans, it's late at night, we put it on the 7-second pass. And it must have had an air bubble in it. You purged the car to get the air out, but somewhere you can't always get the air out. Unfortunately, there's a little air left, and that's what happened. That's what causes it to make the big explosion when I do and blow the hood scoop off. But it was loaded for the 770, 780 pass. We didn't hurt nothing, blew the hood scoop off, but we'll fix that tonight, and hopefully we'll be back out there tomorrow for the fans.
How would you like to pick up another 1 or 2% in power? It may not sound like a lot, but when you think about it, when you're running hard and you need it all just to pull out a clutch win, there's one easy thing you can do to help make it happen. How about changing your oil? A lot of teams already know about the benefits like extra power, reduced breakage and wear, but what about the real facts and numbers behind the oil difference? First there is oil, then there is synthetic oil, and then there is synthetic racing oil. While these different oils have specific characteristics and inherent qualities that qualify them for either street, strip, or a combination of uses, you should be aware of several things. Certain racing synthetics may not work as well in everyday street use because of reduced detergents and more anti-foaming agents. Under certain high-load conditions, the detergent found in many oils may cause more detonation when it accumulates in the combustion chamber, So if you're running an engine in a street and strip combination, you'll probably want to stick with an oil that maintains some higher levels of detergent. And if you're running a strip-only machine, consider the value of a reduced or non-detergent diet of regular racing oil or some of the newer racing synthetics that are currently being marketed. You should also be aware of the anti-foaming characteristics of any oil that is used in engines that run in high RPM levels. Oil saturated with foam cannot support the high film pressures that are necessary to prevent metal-to-metal contact. You may want to check out your local speed shop or automotive retailer for availabilities. And if you want to read up on the latest information out on racing oil applications, pick up the April copy of Drag Racing and High Performance Illustrated, available at newsstands nationwide and throughout Canada.
Well, let's go back to the asphalt for more of semifinal eliminations here for the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout. Well, in the semifinals, it'll be Estes versus Bill Clanton. Charlie Carpenter taking on Mark Carter. Well, it's semifinal time as they burn out of the water box here at Atlanta Dragway. It's no other than the 55 Chevrolet, the AutoSound sponsored machine of Charlie Carpenter, a man who hails right here around South Carolina, and he's ready to take on the Flying Fat Man in the 94 Chevrolet Aerodyne equipped big block powered machine of no other than Mark Carter, the Chevrolet dealership owner, all the way from Arcarchie, Oklahoma. As Carter backs into the hot rubber, the crews look over the car one last time. Charlie Carpenter knows what he needs to do. He needs to get that 55 Chevrolet, that big shoebox, right down the track. I'll tell you, Carpenter really started the shoebox racing craze back in the early 80s with the previous 55 he had before constructing this Tom Mooney-built race car. Now Mooney's out for today's competition, but one of his cars has made it to the semifinals. Let's see if Carpenter can do better. Taking on one of the heavy hitters here, Mark Carter. Carter ready to go. The RPMs come up. The nitrous oxide being purged. One last blast to the carburetors, and now it's time to go to work. The last man into the beams, the legendary stage of Charlie Carpenter. The lights are down. A green light start, and it looks like he goes to the guardrail. Carter has to backpedal the car. Carpenter keeps his foot into it and goes home with a victory. Charlie Carpenter goes to the finals here in Atlanta.
Mark Carter slapped a hole shot on you, Charles.
I knew it. He was out there. He was on a good run, too. He had undoubtedly had problems there. He fell off. But as they say, you'd rather be lucky than good anytime.
684, that's still pretty strong.
Oh, yeah, it was a good pass there. We just, I'm sure he was ready. He was gunning for me on the starting line there. We had a real good run, a real good light to run before.
Well, the old 55 just keeps rolling along.
The custom AutoSound 55 Chevy one more time.
Mark, you put a hole shot on Carpenter. It looked like you were racing until you got crossed up.
Well, I tell you, Aaron, it got pretty ugly out there. Went to the wall and it started shaking real bad, and I lifted, and then we was headed for the center line. But about that time he went around me, there wasn't nothing I could do about it.
Still a pretty good outing getting to the semis with a new car.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we're still working the bugs out of the car, so we'll get it.
Well, now the semifinals ready to go. Norm Estes in the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette. He'll back into the hot rubber and take on the easy money car, the Chevrolet Beretta of Bill Clanton. As Clanton's crew get him some fresh air into that Beretta, I'll tell you he's going to need it if he's going to beat this hard-hitting Chevrolet Corvette. Norm Estes backing into the hot rubber, the crew's giving the thumbs up, telling him he's right in the right spot. Let's find out if he's got it, what it takes here today at Atlanta Dragway. It's been a great 25-car field. Only 16 made it, and it looks like some of the guys that were right in the middle of the pack finding themselves maybe going to the finals. The ZR1 Chevrolet ready to go, revs the motor one time. Clanton rolls into the beams. Now, it looks like Estes' crew gives him the thumbs up, turn the computer on, and it's time to go to work. Earn the money that you've been spending on these machines. Now they rev the motors one last time. Clanton purges the nitrous oxide. Estes, who's going to be into the beams? It looks like a staging battle down on the starting line. Well, that's exactly what it is. Estes will move. Clanton purges the nitrous one more time. Estes gets into the beams. Now Clanton's in. The lights are down. And a tremendous start for Clanton. But look at Estes and ZR1 Corvette pulling on the top end and just walking away with the victory. Estes shuts the doors and goes to the final.
Norman, you could win bracket races with this car. Another 680.
Well, that's great. This is a new motor. First time we run it on a quarter mile. Had some problems yesterday. Made some changes this morning, and it came around. Of course, it's been running as quick as anybody all day. It's a good, safe pass. We didn't change anything, and Shannon, the crew chief's done a good job of figuring out the puzzle with the motor, and I gave us a little help that last round, which comes in handy, and we're looking forward to facing a legend in the final.
Well, you've got lane choice. That should help.
We're going to stay where we're at. We've been in the right lane all day. We'll stay there, and he's been running the left, so we'll go out there and get after it.
Bill, you ran 698 again, but Estes ran 680 again.
Yeah, we broke a rear end last round and we changed, and we just wasn't adjusted like we ought to be.
Still a pretty good showing here at the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout.
We're proud to be here, and we've had a good time. We'll get them next time.
We'll be right back from Atlanta Dragway with more Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout.
You want speed? I've got your speed right here. Speed Unlimited knows fast. If it has 4 wheels and a motor, we've got you covered. With thousands of parts in stock, we're sure to have what you want. Just look at this wrap. Need help deciding? These guys know their stuff. Do you drool over the newest parts and magazines? Well, we've got them. Come get them and install them today. Speed Unlimited, the high-performance superstore. Come get some. You know you want it.
We're back at the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout Championship round. And I'll tell you, it's going to be a championship round between these two guys who went to the final. No other than Norm Estes and Charlie Carpenter. The Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout final right around the corner. Well, down in the pit area, I'll tell you, they were working desperately on the CR1 Chevrolet Corvette of Norm Estes to get the parachutes packed, get the car all tuned up, get the nitrous bottles in. Charlie Carpenter looked mild down there, checking the air pressure, getting his car ready to possibly go home the champ here at Atlanta Dragway.
Going into the final round, Charles Carpenter, you would have to be called the underdog. You have not had lane choice since the first round. Norman Estes has run 682 rounds in a row.
Aaron, I'm going to have a tough run this final round, but the Custom Auto Sound 55 Chevy has been very consistent all day. We've ran mid-680s all day, 204 mile an hour every pass. We've got no parts damage. Everything is good. We're going to just go back with our same tune-up, not change anything, just try to be consistent, try to cut a good light, and hope that pays off for us.
Do you think lane choice is a big deal here with the track being resurfaced recently?
I don't think so. I did make 2 runs in the right lane yesterday. Today I've ran the left lane every run except the first round. It's been no difference. Lanes seem to be pretty much equal.
Well, the finals here at the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout find Charlie Carpenter with a tremendous smoky burnout across the starting line. The Custom Auto Sound 55 Chevrolet going almost to the 8th mile mark on the burnout. We'll have to find reverse and get back into the hot rubber he laid down on the starting line. Well, right now, the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette of Norm Estes, the guy who qualified the number 9 spot here this afternoon, would love to go home a victor. As he's back on the starting line waiting for Charlie Carpenter to get back into the groove, Carpenter's crew runs out, hopefully no problems, probably just going to show him the right direction to get into the hot rubber. Well, even Estes' crew looking over at Charlie Carpenter to see what took him so long on that long burnout. Maybe he's putting some heat down in the track, knowing that Norm has lane choice. Estes rips one up and gets the nitrous oxide purged, and now the computer being turned on Estes' machine as he rolls to the starting line. Charlie Carpenter purging the nitrous oxide on the big shoebox 55 Chevrolet. I'll tell you, race fans, what a final it's going to be. Who will be the man into the beams first? Norm Estes taking his time. It's a battle, a staging battle, but Estes gets in. He's already got a lot of heat in that $40,000 plus motor. Carpenter's in. The lights are down, and a tremendous whole shot advantage goes to Estes, and he makes the charge all the way down the track, and it looks like Estes with the victory. 681 at 201 miles per hour, defeating Carpenter's 687 at 204.
Congratulations, Norman. You're the winner of the Sunoco Racing Fuel Shootout.
Thank you very much. It's a great thing to win one of these things, and it's a hard thing to beat a legend like Charles Carpenter. I'd like to thank Tommy Mooney, who built both these cars, as a matter of fact. Gene Fulton built the engines for both. My crew chief and the rest of the crew did a great job today. What did we run, by the way?
681-201 for you turned the trick. Carpenter had a slight hole shot.
Did he? Well, we've been consistent, too. So we're glad to get the win, and we appreciate it.
Big victory for Norman Estes. Well, Charles, pretty good outing. If you have to lose, runner-up's the best spot to have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, you'd like to win them all, but you can't. Norman's a tough competitor. His car's been running great all day. We've been running good, but he's just running just a little bit better than we were. But congratulations to Norm. Thanks Sunoco for this race, and Thanks, Custom Auto Sound, and hope to see you at the next one.
Well, the Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout here in Commerce, Georgia at Atlanta Dragway, our first tour. The Ram Clutches point standings are as follows. Well, in the number 10 spot, Ed Hoover in the Sunoco Race Fuel Chevrolet Camaro with 326 points. The Prosecutor Nova driver Bill Neri in the 9th spot with 330 points. Jim Halsey in the GTX Castrol Chevrolet Corvette finds himself in the 8th spot so far with 504 points. Steve Kirk Jr., after desperately trying to get the car to 2 rounds, finds himself in the number 7th spot with 508 points. Gary Grainer out of New York, 528 points. Chris Hunt in the 5 spot, the number 1 qualifier today with 582 points. Number 4 will be Bill Clanton, 710 points, followed by the number 3 qualifier, the Flying Fat Man, and Mark Carter with 722 points. And then the man who awed the crowd this afternoon, number 2, Charlie Carpenter, 920 points, and the ZR1 Chevrolet Corvette finds himself in the 1st spot, Norman Estes. And Estes collected the trophy, the money, and the victor. I'll tell you, it was awesome as Estes got the trophy ceremony going, the big check for $7,000+. The whole Estes team was ecstatic as they know they're going to the next Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout in the number 1 spot. Today's race was brought to you by Holly, NOS, Hughes Performance Converters, and by Sunoco Race Fuels, when split seconds count. Also brought to you by Pro Motorsports, the new name and officially licensed pro drag apparel. On behalf of Aaron Green, I'm Al Tucci. We'll see you next time with more Sunoco Race Fuel Shootout action. Remember, you don't have to drive fast, enjoy fast driving.